Howdy folks, AJ coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and today's video is going to be about Star Wars The Old Republic. I'm doing a quick update video because they've added some new content since the last time that I did any kind of a video about it. They added what they called the CZ-198 update, which is for the Zerka Corporation additional content. They actually added like it's not really a planet, it's what they're calling it a small moon that the Zerka Corporation has their operations on, and you go to this moon and start, you're supposed to, there's new content that you're supposed to go through within this moon and the Zerka Corporation headquarters and all this. In addition to that, they've started a thing called their Bounty Week, where they have bounties that are offered on certain NPCs throughout the game, and you go through a series of steps to fulfill these bounties. Either kill them or capture them or whatever, and get your bounties. And they've also added the ability to get Tauntaun mounts in the game. So those are the things that I'm going to talk about real quick in this video. And overall, I want to say that I've experienced all that content. I went and played it, and I am a little bit disappointed with the way that they've decided to start approaching how they're going to release new content. And I think what happened is, I think they painted themselves into a corner. Because when they developed the game originally, they did it completely 100% voiced over. Meaning whatever NPCs that you end up talking to, whatever, it's going to be voiced over. There's going to be a voice actor doing the voiceovers of the NPCs, and there's also going to be voice actors for your character. When you click on your responses, your character speaks back and is voiced over and everything else. So we have come to expect, when new content gets released, we are expecting similar quality of the quest lines and the content in general. And what we're getting is, we're getting very static content where they say, okay, we release this update, you go to the fleet, you go to this guy, and he's going to send you here, and then you're going to start doing dailies. And that's what you get. You don't get any more really voiced over content. You get a little bit with the Bounty Week. I took a bounty. I went. You meet with an NPC who's your client, who's hiring you. You get a little bit of that voiced over interaction and so forth. Very little, and then you go kill the guy. You come back, and then they send you back, and you turn in your stuff. And it's kind of the hamster wheel thing where you got to do that over and over again, and then you get to do higher level bounties and so forth. But there's nothing dynamic about this content, where what they could have done is said, hey, we're releasing new content in the form of in-game bounties. And they could have said, they're in the world, go out and find them. And then it would have been like a scavenger hunt. You would have had to go out and explore the different planets, fly to the different planets, and search and find and talk to. And maybe they had it where it's set up where you go into a cantina and you talk to somebody and he gives you a clue, and that oh, I've heard a little something that maybe if there's somebody that wants to hire a hired gun to take somebody out, and then they could have done much more dynamic to do it that way, and much more fun to do it that way, in my opinion. Now, of course, I started by saying that they painted themselves into a corner because it's expensive to develop that kind of content. I'm sure it's much more expensive than just plopping down a mission terminal and then boom, you hit it and you get a bunch of dailies. But it's a much more rewarding game experience if you do it the dynamic way. In addition, it makes it feel more like an MMO, massive multiplayer online role-playing game, as opposed to a online game, just an online game where you go in and you do the hamster wheel stuff. You're always, no matter how you do it, you're still doing a hamster wheel thing where you're doing the same, you're grinding or whatever you want to call it. But if you make it more fun, more engaging, where you make the player feel like they're a little bit challenged, and they feel like they're accomplishing something because they were going out and exploring and finding things on their own, in a more dynamic fashion. To me, that's just better gameplay all the way around. I'll give you another example. They introduced the Tauntaun mounts. They said, okay, now there's Tauntaun mounts in the game. And here's what I expected. I expected, okay, I get in my ship because I know Tauntauns come from Hoth. So I'm going to fly to Hoth, and I expected there to be some way of tripping over something that triggers a quest line. And this quest line is kind of hints at the beginning of maybe you can get yourself an exotic mount that we have here on Hoth. Whatever the case, however they wanted to enter it into the game world. And then you're off on this epic quest to try and figure this out. And instead, you go to a vendor and you buy some bait, and you go out to static spawns where there's baby tauntauns, and you bait them, and a big monster comes out. You kill the monster, and you get a piece of information. You get a bunch of pieces of information. You get your tauntaun. Or if you're really rich in the game, you just buy one. That's how they introduced that content. So, regardless, like I said, I'm disappointed, and it's more than likely that they painted themselves into that corner. They had such a drop in subscribers and income, therefore, that they could no longer afford to be putting out this content like they did with the original game. And now your subscriber base is expecting that, and you can't meet those expectations, and we're going like this. People are calling it the Tortanic. So, I don't know. I have been supporting the game since it came out. I've got the collector's edition. I Rise of the Hutt Cartel. I mean, I've been a subscriber since day one. They've gotten my $15 every month since day one. I've done nothing but support the game, but they do nothing to make me want to log back in. So, unfortunately, that's my opinion on the whole thing. So, they've actually driven me to drink. So, of course, I know you're shocked, but I'm drinking beer. So, and this isn't really a Beer 30 video, but I am drinking a beer. And actually, it's not this one that I'm going to tell you about. I already finished this one. But there's a little story on the back of the bottle that I wanted to tell you guys about, because I didn't know about this. And I live here in Utah. And so people that aren't from Utah definitely won't know this story, but it's kind of a neat little story. This beer is called First Amendment Lager, and it's by Wasatch Brewing Company. And I'll show you guys the bottle there if you want to see it. It's kind of a neat artwork on the bottle and everything. And there's a little story on the back of it that I decided to read today. And it says, First Amendment Lager was born as a commemoration to our protest of the Utah legislators' attempt to silence our First Amendment rights. In response to our sometimes irreverent ad campaign, the Utah beer excise tax was raised in retaliation. Our response was to reenact our version of the Boston Tea Party by dumping 4 kegs of beer into the Great Salt Lake. Give me liberty and give me a cold one. So, apparently there was some beef between these brewers and the state legislature, and it ended up getting the beer excise tax raised, and they got pissed off and did the Boston Tea Party thing all over again, but they did it in the Great Salt Lake with beer, which to me is just a waste of beer, but I understand the point they were trying to get to, but I never knew the backstory on this, and this brewery, Wasatch Brewery, is fantastic. Everything they make is fantastic. I mean, so if you ever get a chance to try any of their beers, I highly recommend them. So, anyway, guys, that's it for today. I think I'll do a video tomorrow. I got a couple little topics that I'm thinking about, so you may want to stay tuned tomorrow, and there should be another video. Until then, we'll catch you guys on the flip side.